Now I'd like to call on Ian Fainges. And he's from Australia. He is a fantastic figure painter. I'm sure that a lot of you have seen the work that he's produced and posted on the various Facebook pages. And that's the first time that I've seen any of his work. And I was so impressed that I've been trying to get him on the show for quite some time now. And finally, he gave up and agreed to do it. So, Ian, thank you so much for doing this. I'm really looking forward to the beautiful figures that you produce.
Thank you, Kevin. So basically, what I'm going to be doing is I'm changing glasses at the moment because I have to be able to see finer. I was actually joking that I was going to put these on, but I don't use those very often. I only use those for eyes when I'm doing larger pieces. What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be flipping the phone in a moment so that you can actually see the camera, and I'll be actually filming myself so that I can, hopefully I can do this. How do I swap? Sorry, I'm just trying to swap the camera to the other side. There we go. There you got my workbench. So what I'm going to do here is, it's better if you not look at my face, but you actually see, I'm just getting everything all focused up. So there we are. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to grab a figure. Now, because I've done this, I've actually got one of the figures that is actually 3D scanned. So these are 3D figures. This was done for me by an Australian friend. He scanned me and then produced an O-scale figure of myself. This is actually designed to stand in a NA class loco, which is the Puffing Billy loco here in Australia, which actually runs on ON30. Runs on 30-inch, which models exactly like ON30. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a couple of things that I start off with. So I got sent this beautiful tool. This is a
sprue cutter.
Sprue cutter, thank you. Sent to me by Jim. I was using little pliers, sprue cutters, but this is just absolutely like, it's a gem. I can't let you guys know how amazing this tool is. Now, the other thing is I've got some paints here. Unfortunately, oops, so I just knocked my light. Sorry about that. Sorry about this. I just knocked everything. These are the paints I use, and you're now getting the secret information. These are actually the actual colors I actually use. So some painters, some figure painters will never let you see that. They won't let you see what colors they mix and how they paint. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to get out a very nice brush. So the brushes I use are Neef, so N-E-E-F, and I use Sable. My preferred brush is a Kolinsky Sable, but they're very expensive. They cost about $20 Australian, so they're probably about 15 American. They're beautiful. They're a long bristle, but they come to a very, very fine point. And with painting my figures, it's the point, not the tiny bristle. A lot of people grab 10-0 brushes and wonder why they don't paint very well, because they don't hold paint. So there's the brush. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do what I always do. I'm using a tile. Excuse me. The layer paints block up in the thing. I use a paper clip. So squirt out a bit of paint. And I use a Parasite brand from their Game Color. I can hope you can see all this. Sorry, guys. I'm sort of working around that I can see everything. Come on, paint, come out. Sorry about this. The paint won't come out. Come out. You might hear some Australian swear words in a moment. Sorry about that. Yeah. often use just the end of a brush to get the paint out. Just wipe that off. Otherwise, I'll have it all over my hands. Right. So there you have. I've got a little bit of white. So I mix it up, grab the figure. Here we go. So this is a dark flesh I'm using. And you'll see I'm not actually painting the whole face. I am only just doing what we call the highlights. Can you see this? Is this coming up in the film?
Ian, what did you call what you're painting now?
I'm calling, what I do is I'm painting over a black undercoat with a zenithal highlight. So what I'm doing here is I'm not painting the actual whole face. I am only painting the highlights. So where the light hits your face. So if you look very closely, so I'm now
Can you hold it? Can you hold it up a little bit closer to the camera for a moment? Maybe we can see a little bit better there.
No, thank you. I'm sort of looking at two planes. I'm looking at my hand because I have to. Look at my hand.
hold something. If you've got something white, hold it right behind the figure so it forces your camera. Any sort of white card,
Or his handle work.
right, or a hand or anything. Yeah, that if you put that right behind the figure there, yeah, right up behind it because it'll. Yeah, see how now it focuses. There we go. Excellent. Yeah, see now you can see.
Yeah, we see it.
Thank you.
Yeah, cool. Thank you. Yeah, it's just you got to
know
force the camera.
Yeah, I understand what you guys are doing. This is going to be really important. I'm about to do this live at the narrow gauge convention in Australia in 2 weeks. So learning what I'm doing here will help me advance it. Now you'll see that I'm now working the nose. See how I'm actually adding a little tiny touch of white.
So Ian, did you start with a primed figure or black or dark gray, or is that this base plastic?
Okay. What I do is black, good quality black spray paint, Tamiya or Vallejo or the Gaines Workshop one, Citadel, because they've got a really fine rattle can. The best is an airbrush, but I can never make an airbrush work for me. I spray it black, flatter the better. Then if you look very closely with this, there's a sort of a light white feel to the figure. What I do is I actually, from a 45-degree angle above the figure, you'll see how I've got it. I'll spray it from that angle, and that's called zenithal lighting. It's a big word, but it's just an art term. All it is it's giving where the light hits the figure. So so the light's coming from here and hitting the figure, so that I'm now getting where the highlights are. So what I'm doing now is I'm just adding along the cheek, on the nose, and just here above the eyebrow. That gives you a lot. So I've literally removed the black almost, but it's just there and you can just see it. I'll now paint a hand. So I always do a darker color because that acts as my shadow. You'll also see I do a lot of wet blending. What that means is I actually have two colors on my brush. I'm not mixing. I'm not spending time mixing on the palette. I'm actually mixing as I'm painting on the object. So I'm about to take the lighter color now. You'll see me paint my hands a lot. That's my other palette, is my fingers. I use the palm of my hand here, that part there, or the palm of my hand. And when I'm doing flesh, what it actually does is it helps me match my flesh colors. So there you have it. There's There you have, in the last 4 minutes, I painted. Now you'll also see I'm using I'm not filling my brush up. I'll use the very, 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 very tip of my brush. And what I'm doing is because I'm doing a hand, I'm running from the top down to the bottom, and I'm lightly dry brushing the hand, which leaves that, the fact that the highlight on the hand. Okay. I'm going to now add some brown because I'm going to do, and some black. I'm going to do the beard. Okay. Now, if I was doing myself.
Ian, can you hold it up closer to the screen so that we can see your colors
Okay.
as you're adding it? Yeah.
The palettes. Yeah. Okay. I'll try.
Just hold your figure up close, please.
Okay. Okay. When I'm adding, can you see that?
Yep. I know it's hard to get it close though.
But you'll actually see I'm adding the beard. Can you see that?
Yeah, pull it up closer to the camera, please. There you are. Oh, yeah.
So what I'm doing here, yeah. See, the problem is if I bring it up near the camera, I can't see the piece.
Yeah, I know.
That's the problem.
I know. I'm sorry.
It's no. I'm not upset. This is a learning curve for me. I'm learning something here myself. So there you are.
Pull it over.
So there,
Right there.
I've actually added the beard. Now, if it was myself, I would. Now watch this. I'm adding some. This is adding some. See, that's adding some white to the beard. So I'm actually graying the beard. I've got a brown black underneath it.
So you're blending it.
Yeah, I actually blend as I'm actually working on the face. So I'm actually, it's called wet blending. So I'm not dry brushing. I'm actually using it wet. So that gives you the sometimes I have to work back over it. Okay, now I'm just going to put the figure down because I've got to get some blue. So where's my blue? So that's this blue. This is Prussian blue. Vallejo. Look, any of the good stuff. There's so many good paints out at the moment. The Europeans are the masters of the paints. You've got Spanish firms, you've got Italian firms, you've got European firms that are all producing absolutely magnificent paint at the moment. I have a couple of brands that I use because some of the metallics is really important. You get the right metallics. I use, where are we? I have lost something. I've lost the color. Here we go. Sorry.
Ian, what do you use
now,
the metallics for?
Okay. Buttons. Like when I'm doing, especially when you do station masters and all that, they got bright, shiny buttons. Often you'll see I'll probably do it on this one. I'll use my brush. Okay. Can you see this? Here we are. Here and here are your buckles. And you'll often just touch them with a little bit of a black silver or a metallic. And that will give you just what it does is when you're doing a figure and you're looking at or photographs, especially photography, because Ben Poole shares a lot of my figures on ON30 and quite a few other places of he's now sharing on Model U as well, which are the guys one I'm painting for at the moment. He features my figures and does little dioramas, and the camera picks up the metallics. So okay, here we go. Mix. I'm mixing up a blue. There's a blue. Now, see how I'm actually mixing, that's got a bit of what we call Iraqi sand. Sorry, it's a military color, but it's a magnificent light buff. I try to use real colored names rather than proprietary colored names, because when you go to, say, a art shop and buy Joe Sonia, which are your tube paint, which you can use. My friends who paint top quality, world-class figures often use the Joe Sonia and that sort of paints, and they use what's known as a wet palette. But that's for your bigger figures. Because what you're trying to do is you mix up a color and you don't want it to dry. Does anybody want to know what a wet palette is? I'm not going to push that at anybody. It's just a palette that keeps your paint from drying out. So you can see that I'm slowly see how I'm working the colors. What I'm doing here is I've added a bit of light color, and I'm just getting the edges of the jeans. Okay, I'll turn it over, get some dark. So what I tend to do is I dark from up, so I'm painting up. So I'm filling the grooves with my darker color. Then I come over with my highlight and I just come down.
So
It looks
you're never
really-
really using one color at a time. You're always kind of blending and mixing different ones, correct?
I'm constantly blending, and I make mistakes. Because I'm not seeing my colors at the moment. I went too light with that, but you'll see I'm doing what people do with oil paints. I'm blending them into each other. See how that's. So I'm just neatening up my overalls. Now I've got to concentrate. I'm about to do the tops, so I'm doing very fine lines here and here. So that's your straps. So what I'm working on at the moment is getting your shoulder straps. Now, never be frightened to repair any of this. I have people who, I've overpainted. Don't worry about it. You can always repaint another color over it. Also, I do what's known as, okay. Now, if you look very closely, I'm about to do what I do with my stains. So I've just started here in the groin. I've got some brown. What's it called? Marron, charred brown. So I'm giving that into the crutch, and I go into the knees. See, that's where when you're a workman or anything, you kneel down, you kneel on your thing, and the other one is on your bottom. Sorry. Where a mechanic or a engine driver wipes his hands. Now, I don't use black for the shoes. I actually use a brown. So what I'm doing is all the brown work. So you can see I'm putting brown on the shoes. Why I do that is most shoes, if you ever look at them, have scuffs and all that sort of thing. So what I do now, I get a bit of black paint. I make it very, very thin. You'll see I'm actually mixing water in with it, and I just go over it, the brown. Can you see that? And I'm just darkening it. Darken this. So what I'm now doing is I'm just doing a bit of pin washing with my black, because I've actually almost got this. This figure's almost done. That's how quick it is.
Are you using the same brush all the time, Ian?
Yeah, same brush. I just rinse it out. You're not seeing me rinse it. You won't see the disgusting thing I do is every time I finish with it and wash it out, I lick the brush because it keeps my point. That's what I want. Where is it? Where are you? Where are you? There. Where are you? That it's the brush point that you always want, that fine point.
But what
Now.
color is your tongue?
Well, the worst thing is when I finish, this part of my hand here is always colored. I go out. My wife says, "Have you washed your hand?" If you can see, I've got color all over my hands. Okay. So now this is a lot of people don't realize this. This is my other trick. See how I've got the thing? I've got some mixed flesh, okay, on my brush. I'm now brushing it on my thumb. I'm weathering up with a bit of, with my hand,
We're losing
my
your
brush.
fingers.
Yeah, I do. I use a lot of my fingers. It's some people use a blender or another brush. I was taught a double brush. You keep one in a dry brush in your mouth. One lady taught me that, but I prefer just rubbing. See, now I'm just adding different stains and everything into the overalls. They're barely there. The colors are barely there. But when you're doing photography, or when you're actually on the layout, it gives you that. So there you are. That's almost the thing. Now, I need more white. Always. The only thing I find is my white, or in Australian conditions, because we're very humid. I've got the air condition. I'm sitting in about 30 degrees temperature, Celsius, not Fahrenheit. And it gets a bit warm here. So I get a bit of drying out on the palette. So I'm about to make the very soft colored hat. There you have it. I've got it it's almost white, but that gives you that real pale blue of US hats. And also the puffing belly boys, their crew hats are very, very pale. Some in Queensland, where I grew up, where I still live, the Sunshine State, they call it. Our loco drivers wore more an English, like hexagonal.
Lost your figure.
Sorry. Yeah, sorry. I moved it. You got it?
Yep.
There we are. Yeah. There we are.
Ian, do you use that same brush when you do like eyes and lips, if you do all those?
I never do lips. Never do eyes.
As
You'll
long as you
actually
keep
see that
looking
I've done. See, the same brush. That's why I use this. This is a number 2. This is a big brush, but it's got a really fine tip. And that's why you get it. So there it is. Now, the one thing I'm known for is that some of you would have seen it. Has anybody seen my plaid work? That's where I actually do things like, what do you call it? Your flannelette shirts and that sort of thing. So what I do with a flannelette shirt is, so you can see, can you see that? Hang on, I'll hold it, get the focus. There we are.
There you go.
Wow.
Perfect. Oh, yeah. Now you can see it. Very nice.
See the way that, do you see the dirt and the grot?
Yep.
Ian, how long did it take to learn what I'm going to call the artistic concepts, which is like where you need to put dirt because somebody brushed their hands, or where to put the shading and the highlights and stuff like that?
Okay, it's a process. If you take an interest, I've been lucky. I've done I've done painting classes with master painters. One Polish lady, she barely spoke English, but she was absolutely all fantasy painters. They do all these historical and fantasy figures, you know, like the Games Workshop and then bigger pieces. And then I'm self-taught, basically. I started in 1982. I am that old. Painting wargaming figures. So I started with a figure's size of 15 millimeters. And then I just learned. And then in 87, I had to get a second job. So instead of going out, I started doing commission work and painting for other people. First off, I sold some of my figures. That built up a clientele, and I started painting and painting and painting. In 2016, I had to give up the bank job that I was doing. So I started again taking in figures, and that's when the 3D figures started to come onto the market. The 3D printed and then the 3D scanned. And that's where I started to really, my work started to take off, because my figure work is very natural in its style. So this is a plaid. So what I'm doing stripes, just lines up the shirt. See, just a line up the shirt. So all I do is I just go. Do little tiny. So I start here, go across. The trick is I line it up with where I put it on the shirt sleeve. Okay, so there's. You'll notice I've left the edge of the sleeve. I don't paint that with the color, because I'll highlight that. Okay. Now what I do is I bring in the second color. Now, because I painted this black, I leave the black line. See you'll start to see it in a moment. Now, can you see? Hang on. Can you see the sleeve?
Yeah.
So basically what I'm doing is, sorry, I can't do two things. I've got to be able to, I'm actually looking but I have to keep quite a steady hand for this. The brush helps.
Ian, do you have something that you use to rest your hand on to keep it steady?
Nope. But I've learned a trick. I do rest my hands. At the moment, usually I hold my elbows into my side and I hold it in front of me. At the moment, because I'm not working as I normally, I'm working to a camera. Because I'm working to a camera, I've actually got my left hand is my hold, and I've actually got that pressed against the table, which gives me a very still, very, very solid.
Okay.
You call it. So I'm not moving, but I don't always have it locked. I sometimes like to have free hand, like my hands loose. Okay, so there you got the stripes. See the stripes?
Mm-hmm.
The trick is now I'm doing a vertical line. So I've added I've got a red, but I've got a tiny little bit of white into the red, because what I want to do is soften the line coming up. There you go. I do this a lot, so. Now I'm about to teach you that this is what changes the whole look of it. Wherever I cross a color, I put a dot of a slightly stronger color. So if I'm doing red, vertical and horizontal lines, I'm actually dotting where they cross. Because when you're doing weaving, this is something I've learned from painting, of all things, Scottish tartan. I used to do full proper kilts on figures that were 18 millimeters tall. Can't do that quite as I used to. There you go.
Ian, can I ask how many colors are on your palette right now that you're drawing from?
Okay, at the moment, I'm working on a red and a beige. So I'm working on 3 colors with that. I've got the red. You'll actually see. Hang on. I'll show you. There's my palette. Sorry, I'm using hand. Sorry about the shake. There's my red.
We're losing your sound, Ian.
Sorry, I've got my. Yeah.
Still losing.
Only when he moves that screen, he loses his sound.
Yeah.
That's all I use. So the red, I was only using 3.
We just can't hear you, Ian.
You're frozen.
You hear me now?
Just a little. Your screen is frozen, I think, Ian. There we are.
Ian, I think you're muted though.
Yeah, sorry about that. Come on, don't you fall down. Oh, come on. Where are you? Am I unmuted now?
Yes.
Your screen is shrunk.
Hang on. No, my mic's on.
But you're coming and going.
Yes, sorry about this. Basically, that's it all. I'm now going to turn this all off. That's the figure finished, right?
Yes,
Okay.
looks good.
That's it done.
It
I'm gonna
looks
throw-
beautiful, Ian. I think the satellite is moving away from Australia.
I think it's gone to Antarctica, I reckon. It's totally. There we are. Can you see me now? I've swapped it over.
I can see you, but
yeah,
you're froze.
Has anybody got any questions on that? That's basically you saw me in about. I do that in about a third of the time. Yeah. So there's my painting, basically. That's
Well, I feel like I
that's what I
just
do.
watched the Mona Lisa get painted. That was a beautiful job.
Thank you. It's again, I always try not to scare people. Remember, I do this all day, every day. This is my job. I also do it for relaxation. I paint whether I'm being paid or not. It's practice. A lot of it is, you saw me learning the use of the tools. Like I was sitting listening to the saw blades. I can tell you, I was learning something there. Well, the same thing is, the two things people do a lot wrong with painting is they fill their brush with paint right up to the ferrule, right up to there, right up to the top. You only use just the tip of your brush. The other thing is they paint too much. The paint's too wet, and they get scared. Basically, you just soft touches. Always can add another color. You don't have to fill your colors and that sort of thing.
What do you mean by the paint being too wet?
Okay, I'll show you an example. That's too wet. That's too wet. Where we go, there we are. It's almost liquid. That I use that for washes, but people try to paint, and what it does is, if you're not doing it as a wash, it fills. Because there's actual paint that they produce called washes that will actually give you a flat wash. So you can do all this. I've had guys who do it not quite to the same finesse as me, but they'll go over it and they'll put a black wash over it, and and then they'll highlight again. It gets you out of trouble. That's right.
Anybody have any more questions for Ian?
Yeah,
Yes,
I was just gonna ask with your faces. So you're really starting with a black undercoat, and like you say, you spray in the shadow. So you're not really trying to paint the eyes and the mouth and things. You're just using the black as the shape in the shadows. Is that right?
I know what you mean, Daryl, and I think you're right. And it's a whole
Yeah.
different way of looking at painting figures.
Yeah, I always try to go after the eyeballs, and then I wind up with googly eyes everywhere. So just get rid of them.
Oh, Darryl, that is the biggest. As a figure painter, it's the one thing that bugs the living daylights out of me. Sorry, because people paint eyes in a 1/4 inch or a HO figure or an S scale figure.
Awesome.
They're the three big American. You don't see them. They're just a shadow. Literally just a shadow. Sometimes I have to put a dark line back in. I can paint eyes. I can do O scale eyes. I don't bother because you can't see them.
Yeah.
A painting an eye is actually a 7 paintbrush color process. I paint eyes. I do eyes up I do living eyes on figures that are 1/6. I do 1/6 busts. So I really work hard on my eyes. So I put color, I put highlight, I shadow them, I highlight them, I do the iris, I do all the little colors inside the iris, because it makes it, when you look at a figure, it looks really like you look at it. But with these, now I've actually got this figure and I've just given it a slight wash, and now it's got like a, what do you call it, a very, it's still wet. Oh, the other trick, don't ever be scared to use one of these. That's my other tool. What that does is it makes me be able to work quicker, and it dries the figure out quicker. Anything else?
Is there any way that we can rescue the figures that we have now?
Seriously, yes. I do this all the time. I go back and get figures 20 years old. I will give them a black wash by adding a bit of flow medium into that's an art thing. It's called flow medium. You get it from an art shop. You put it in your water and you mix it with your paint, and you just wash over your paint a flat black, any good quality figure, flat black. Even a folk art, you go down to whatever your wife uses to get her fabrics, and they often sell folk art paint because they've got hobby stuff. And I just wash the figure. It takes all the color. If it's too thick, you got to strip it back. You got to take all the. If it's white metal, use brake fluid or anything like that. If it's plastic, what do they use? Dettol, which is a antiseptic wash, or alcohol, rubbing alcohol. Strips it off. Start again. Spray it. Paint it. Figures can be redone. I've actually taken figures of other guys, and we call it. It has a name. It's called fangifying, because my name's Fainges. They call it fangifying. I take a bad figure and I change it, and it all came because my son, who was 3 years old, wanted to learn to paint, and I would let him paint, and then I would come back and re-detail the figure. You can do it.
Now,
Now-
do you have a larger figure with painting on it that we could see,
Yeah, I'm just walking away.
please?
Literally, well, nice ask.
Oh, wow.
That's the same figure.
Wow.
Wow.
Recognize him?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, wow.
It's similar. And then do you look in the mirror when you do it?
Oh no, mate! I'll break the mirror.
Oh, beautiful.
Ian, what is your price range for a figure, an O scale?
Okay, it's $16 American to paint. It's 16 US to paint
Okay.
because of all. It's a lot of work. As you saw how quick, but that's a lot of skill. I'll go back over that and refine that before I sell it. I mean, I couldn't see half this time. I was working slightly blind. I couldn't see my lines. I was away from it because I'm trying to give you focus. And I appreciate the feedback because I can't see it because the camera's above me, so I can't see what's going on. When I do the convention, I've got a guy he's setting it up so I've got the focus. So hopefully I'm hoping I can share that on YouTube for guys to see and I put it on my YouTube. I have a YouTube site where my layout is on. You can actually see it. The easiest way to get to my YouTube site is either Fainges, I think it comes under. So Fainges is an unusual name. I'm the only one of the few Fainges in the world. It's Fainges. The other thing to look up is my Facebook page now this is totally different. It's Fanai 59. So FANAI 59. It's Ian spelled backwards with FA. My surname. It's just an nom de plume. 59 is what I'm known as, and that's my Facebook. It's Fanai 59 miniatures, and all my art, all my figure painting. I put up figures nearly every 2 days, and you can see close-ups of my figure work finished.
Yeah. I
followed a lot of your figures on Facebook, and I'm always blown away with them. They look like real people.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm humbled by that. It's learn, it's practice. It's just practice. As I say, the 3D figures has changed it for me because the figures are, without being, I knew a guy in the US in Colorado called Ray Lance, Lanz, who was an absolutely magnificent sculptor. The problem with sculpturing is you can only do it in one scale, and that's it. And the master goes off, gets cast. If it survives, you can reuse it. Most of the time it gets destroyed in the casting process. I'm about to do a caricature of a figure. You would have seen it. I shared it the other day. I'm actually worked off a Dave Meek art illustration, and I'm cast up 15 original figures, and Dave and I are going together, and through Gary, we're selling these figures off at Gary's place for charity. Gary Beatty's place. We're gonna raise some money for charity. Dave's going to give the postcard from where the artwork, and you'll buy one of my figures. It's totally original. There'll only ever be 15 of them. That's it. Gone. We've destroyed the mold now. So that's the sort of thing. As you notice, I'm actually wearing a Porto Baracho. I had to do that to Gary. I'm sorry. Gary and I Gary and I got to know each other through Facebook. I was so wanting to go to the US this year. I planned actually to go to Gary's in May, and then to go to Pennsylvania and go to one of Al Judy's meets at Harrisburg.
Yeah.
But my mum's had 7 falls in the last 3 months.
Oh,
Yeah.
She's not almost 90, and her 90th birthday would have been while I was away. No. I'm not going to see her. I've only got a short period. She's not that good. I don't know how much longer I've got of her, so I've sort of got to grab the time when I can. So, but next year, I'm really hoping that some of you might actually be able to come and visit me somewhere in the US.
Well, we'll look forward to that. Anyway,
My
Ian will be back next week with us to show some more of his skill. And Ian,
Yep.
I can't thank you enough for doing this. As you know, I've been trying to get you for a while, and I really do appreciate you taking the time tonight to join us, because your figure painting is true art as far as I'm concerned. I mean, it is absolutely gorgeous. And one of the things I want you to think about telling us about next week is those signs that you put on those barrels. I could not believe when I looked at those barrels, and I asked you online, how did you do that? And you said, well, I just painted them. And I'm thinking, painted them? My God, I can't hardly see them.
I learned that I used to paint shields on little figures. I'm talking 15 millimeter. I used to do Robert the Bruce shield on figures in 15 mil. I can't do that anymore. I learned freehand. I've got a master. My skill is freehand. That's why I can paint plaids and all this sort of thing. It's good quality brushes and thin paint, and the other thing is, because I've done art, one thing I've gone to art classes and taught, you never paint the actual detail, you suggest it. So you actually look at something with your eyes slightly open, slightly closed, you get a blurry vision. That's what you're painting, is the blurred vision. Because that's what you see. You don't. The problem with photography, it gives you exact. Whereas a paintbrush, I can actually take away some things. It gives you ideas. Yeah, but I can always grab one of my boxes and undercoat it for next week and show you how I do a Acme rocket sled.
Ian, thanks so much. Look forward to seeing you.
My pleasure.
thank you.
Okay. God bless.